total of 29 C-17 military transport aircraft and 12 refueling tankers have arrived in the Middle East, in particular Qatar and Jordan. The IRGC has released videos now, even warning the United States, showing the locations of U.S. military bases across the Middle East that are within range of Iranian missiles. The footage points to sites in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE, and the Sultanate of Oman, indicating they are legitimate targets for Iran if action is taken. I have believed for a very long time that there would be a second war on Iran. As soon as the 12-day war ended and there was no actual peace agreement, there was no actual ceasefire agreement, the signing on the dotted lines, none like that. It was simply a Trump tweet that barely held up. It actually didn't really hold up in any way, shape, or form, because Israel then went and they did like another bombing attempt on Iran where they bombed some open flat field because the Iranian fighter jets were tailing them. And then, of course, we saw the other incident prior to that where Iran did the symbolic strikes, which actually ended up not being that symbolic on the Qatari base because they blew up a giant radar. And I think there was like a casualty or a KIA at the base for a U.S. military personnel when they did that. But anyways, we have predicted that, yes, there would be another war in Iran. I don't think that's shocking. I think most people knew that that would happen. Some people are out here saying, no, what's happening right now is just a show of force. The U.S. is just doing a show of force. The U.S. doesn't actually want this. They want negotiations. No, they don't. What they want is war on Iran. They want to topple Iran, and they want Israel to take the blame for it. So for everyone saying, oh, yeah, Trump didn't actually want that, he was just forced into this position, that's actually exactly what the CIA, the State Department, all of the military industrial think tanks, that's all what they want. All right. So I have a real problem when people are trying to take the blame off of Trump, because without the U.S., Israel would not be able to have any attacks on Iran. And not just like, oh, Israel wouldn't be able to, mount these large scale B-2 bomber hypothetical attacks. I don't even think the B-2 bomber attacks happen. Giant submarine attacks, whatever. It's not just about that. It's about any attacks whatsoever, any air defense whatsoever, any logistics. Israel needs the United States full backing. All right. So we're now at a point in time where it's a lock. There is going to be another war. As we predicted on January 1st, I said that before they did the new war, there would be widespread Mossad-backed protests and riots in Iran. That already materialized. They're using that as justification. They're using the crackdown against the Mossad riots and subterfuge as justification for Trump to launch a war on Iran now. That's exactly what we're seeing. But Iran has uncovered some interesting details over the past 24 hours. Iran has uncovered the fact that, yes, this was an American-Israeli plot. I mean, Mike Pompeo said it. Israeli Channel 14 said it. Lots of people said it was a Mossad plot. And the plot was actually called Operation Flash Lightning. IRGC Intelligence's version says the plan was set up right after the 12-day war and involved up to 10 foreign intelligence agencies. The goal was to spark internal chaos, push protests into violence, and create an existential threat to Iran. So I guess this is probably the good work that Macron was referencing in his text messages to Trump that they had accomplished in Iran. Surprise, surprise, right? Iran has ordered all military commanders to return to duty within the next 48 hours. So this actually took place on January 21st. So as of right now, all military commanders are on active duty in Iran. Why is today a notable date? Because as you will see in a moment, today is the day that the USS Abraham Lincoln has arrived in the region. Okay, so let's get into this. We're going to break this down into several points. So first of all, we're going to go through U.S.-based developments surrounding Iran. Then we'll go into a very short section on Israeli developments and statements. Then we are going to go into Iranian preparations. I think by the end of this video, you will understand that, yes, all parties here, all potential belligerents do understand that a war is about to take place, and it will likely be a much bigger war than the 12-day war. All right, so J.D. Vance, the guy who always says, I actually don't want war in Iran, but of course, privately, we all know what he's doing. J.D. Vance on the buildup of U.S. forces in the Middle East, we just want to make sure that we have options. We have a lot of forces in the region. If, God forbid, the Iranians did something very stupid, that we had the resources necessary to respond. Again, the Iranians didn't do anything stupid in the first 12-day war. The U.S. was about to have their 7th round of negotiations that they had offered and scheduled for the Iranians regarding a new JCPOA in Oman the day after Israel launched the attacks. So, no, this is complete BS. There is no justification to begin doing decapitation strikes and the bombing of civilians and civilian infrastructure all across the country, but that is what they did. Trump has also confirmed this massive military buildup near Iran. We have a massive armada moving in the direction of Iran. We'll see what happens. We are watching them closely.
Where do things stand with Iran? Flotilla going in that direction, and we'll see what happens.
All right, you can barely hear that. He says we have a massive flotilla going in that direction. We'll see what happens. The United States also now has 35 F-15s on the ground in Jordan. Something is brewing. As you can see here, the Jordanian regime is providing bases for the Trump regime to help and prepare a lot of air power for this potential offensive. Now, some people are saying, these, by the way, are all F-15s here. Some people are saying stuff like this. I saw Armchair Warlord say, the notion that a carrier group and a handful of fighter squadrons are going to meaningfully intimidate the Iranians is ridiculous. It's ridiculous because this is an order of magnitude below that required to threaten the regime. This is a heavily telegraphed show of force. Now, here's where I disagree entirely with Armchair Warlord. The U.S. could do a lot of damage effectively with just one submarine. 35, 29, however many F-15s they have here. How many is it? 35 F-15s. Okay, so the U.S. could effectively do a lot of damage, right, with just one submarine, 2 submarines, okay? And I'm not saying Iran can't defend itself. I'm just saying that it's kind of silly to claim that you can't do anything with 35 F-15s. You can't do anything with this, that, or the other. To start a war, you don't need, the entire U.S. military there. We're not talking about what's needed for a U.S. invasion today. We're talking about what is needed to start a war, the initial operation. So I disagree with Armchair Warlord. I don't think this is just gunboat diplomacy. I don't think that you send 2 U.S. carrier strike groups to the region to surround Iran. You send 35 F-15s. You send however many, 29 C-17s, or however many they've sent. You don't do this just as a show of force. You don't do that just for a show of force. We are about to see a new war. That's what's going to happen. Now, the USS Abraham Lincoln has entered strike range of Iran amid escalating tensions. The carrier's F-35C Lightning II jets, F-A-18Es and Fs, Super Hornets, and escort ship missiles can reach deep into Iranian territory, including nuclear and missile sites. Analysts note that such positioning is deliberate, placing the carrier group roughly 600 to 1,600 miles from Tehran, well within combat radius of its air wing with aerial refueling. In addition to that, we have a U.S. Army C-37B, a high-priority Gulfstream jet used to transport top officials, spotted flying into Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, right next to Iran. It's now headed to Abu Dhabi. Trump is preparing for an all-out war with Iran. In the past 5 days, a total of 29 C-17 military transport aircraft and 12 refueling tankers have arrived in the Middle East, in particular Qatar and Jordan. Now, Ahmed Hassan from Yemen, our brother from Yemen, he posted this. This is very interesting. So there is now a full air bridge that has been developed from Florida, California, and Maine to Lakenheath and Mildenhall bases in the UK and to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. From there, fighter jets and C-17 transport aircraft are being transferred to Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, while refueling aircraft are headed to Al Adad Air Base in Qatar. So basically, it is an endless flow of U.S. military aircraft or long-range missions, long-range strike missions, presumably in Iran, that are getting sent to the region right now. U.S. troops have also evacuated the Ain al-Assad air base in Iraq and handed it over to the Iraqi army. Ain al-Assad is the largest U.S. military base in Iraq. Got a question? Why are they doing that? The answer, I think, is there's actually a few reasons why they're doing this. Maybe we'll discuss what's going on in Iraq, the transport of ISIS fighters. Maybe we'll discuss that tomorrow. But one reason why this is happening is because the U.S. knows that U.S. military personnel are going to be targeted. Any U.S. military personnel who are targeted in Iraq are going to be hit by the PMF, the Popular Mobilization Forces, with extreme ease. They've done it before. They'll do it again if Iran is threatened, if they are taken to war by the United States and Israel. Now, here's what's going on with Israel. This is from Royal Intel, great source, I believe a Christian Arab, great news source though online. IDF estimates U.S. will build up forces for a large-scale strike on Iran, which will take place in 1 to 2 weeks. That's from the IDF. Israeli Channel 13 writes, the IDF has completed preparations for an American strike on Iran, and the home front is now ready. Brace for impact. So that's from Israeli Channel 13. Israel's Herzog, the president of Israel, said that it is clear to us that the Iranians are regrouping, and they haven't stopped for one moment in their applied to spread terror all over the world, as well as move toward their big grand plans of weapons of mass destruction. Trump confirmed the start of negotiations with Iran. Iran wants to negotiate, and we will negotiate. I personally confirmed that this yellow-street dog with cut-off ears is lying. Iran is preparing for war, not negotiations. Trump is trying to deceive Iran, playing the same scenario as before the 12-day war. I fully agree. Ayatollah Khamenei is not allowing any negotiations to take place. So Trump claiming all this stuff, it's just bullshit. Iranians are saying this. Ali Khamenei advisor, Yahya Rahim Safafi, says, we are preparing for the final battle with Israel. Another IRGC commander came out the other day. He said, our finger is on the trigger. You understand what vibe, what position these men are in Iran right now. It is what they view as what's going to be, the last battle, the last war, the last stand. Now or never. Iran's IRGC has started moving aerial drones westward out of the Iranian capital of Tehran. So they are getting into defensive positions. Some sources are claiming that ICBM, Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, Iran tested has a range of 10,000 kilometers. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I've seen any proof of that, but interesting nonetheless, coming from our friend Royal Intel. Iran has warned countries as well in the region that it will attack U.S. bases on their territory if Trump attacks. The warning has been taken serious. The Turkish foreign minister has now spoken with the Iranian foreign minister in the last 24 hours. Turkey has also contacted other countries in the region. Efforts are currently being made to de-escalate the situation. So you can understand Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, they do not want this war to happen because they, as far as, Saudi Arabia and Qatar go, their energy assets will be targeted. Strait of Hormuz will be shut down potentially, if it gets to that point. But on the ground, oil, gas infrastructure will be targeted potentially. U.S. military bases will be targeted potentially. So this is not what they want. There are some parties in the region who are advocating against this for the simple reason of, self-preservation. The IRGC has released videos now, even warning the United States, showing the locations of U.S. military bases across the Middle East that are within range of Iranian missiles. The footage points to sites in Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE, and the Sultanate of Oman, indicating they are legitimate targets for Iran if action is taken. In response to all of this news, Ansar Allah in Yemen has said if the United States attacks Iran, we will renew attacks on American ships. So that is a new development, very interesting. All the while, the UAE has built a runway for Israeli aircraft to land on Mayun Island in Yemen, which would be staging ground to attack either Saudi forces in Yemen or potentially Ansar Allah in Sana'a and Sada. Now, To round this story out, we have Tucker Carlson, I think, just summing it up perfectly. My thoughts, hopefully, I'd imagine probably your thoughts, if you are a sane, logical observer of these geopolitical events that are evolving and could be very dangerous for all of us. Tucker Carlson says a nuclear-armed Iran could deter attacks, limit U.S. and Israeli intervention, and reduce pressure on Tehran, potentially stabilizing the region and making war or regime change less likely. I will say one thing. You know, when the Iran protests were the riots, they were in their first day, I made a video saying Iran needs to go full North Korea. And I meant that in every single facet of their state security, right? And their culture. And while Iran definitely, I mean, the crackdown that they did, it's being, exaggerated. They initially said 2,000 people were killed. Then they said 4,000. Then they said 8,000. Then they said 20,000. Now I've seen photos claiming 45,000 people were killed by Iran over the span of 2 nights. 10,000 people were blinded. Just the most ludicrous Israeli propaganda I've ever, even the Israeli propagandists would never say something that stupid. Maybe it's one of our own. Maybe it's like Basij putting out fake Zionist propaganda to try and show how stupid the whole thing is. Anyways, the truth of the matter is that yes, Iran needs to go full North Korea. One development that they have made is not just the crackdown on these foreign-backed rioters and the guerrilla warfare effectively that was taking place in the streets, and not giving any sort of leniency to those who are arrested, upholding the law firmly and fairly. In previous, like the 2022 protests, Iran, they granted clemency to some of the riot organizers, right? This time there was no clemency granted. They upheld the law, and it's treason. They were in command centers corresponding via Starlink with Mossad and 9 other, 10 in total, foreign intelligence agencies, okay? So, yes, I mean, they did crack down on a threat to the domestic home front and the state security. Another really interesting thing that Iran did that mimics North Korea and their security is Iran is now developing, after they shut down the internet, they announced that they are developing their own sovereign internet that is cut off from the rest of the world. So that's what North Korea has. That's what China has. Really, it makes a lot of sense if you are under U.S. threat and under the threat from many countries, and you have online propaganda as one of the main tools of these threats and these regime change attempts. So that makes a lot of sense to me, and I welcome that change in official policy. I think that's exactly what's needed. And the gloves, the gloves are coming off. That's what we need to see if Iran hopes to maintain its sovereignty for the foreseeable future. But Tucker Carlson says it best there. Nothing to add to that statement. I think he is 100% correct. And here we go. War in Iran. You don't have to be a brainiac to understand this is where it has always been headed. And with the massive military buildup we see, it's not going to be too far off now. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.